From the kitchen of the cabin, a look at the games that made us who we are in Ben and Steve's Advent Calendar. So, I'm rather annoyed today on the 13th of December. So what the listeners don't know is that we have a communal Google Doc where we type in the games that we want to do for this Advent Calendar series. And Steve has stolen one of my favourite games. Steve, tell us.
Stolen?
Well, I wanted to put it on the list and then you put it on first, so I couldn't put it on the list. But what that means is we can both discuss the game and why it's amazing. So I'm going to let you go first. I want to hear a exulteratory, which is a word I've just invented. If it's good enough for Shakespeare, it's good enough for me. Monologue on this game and why it's ace.
Well, since we're going to be exultatory, I'm also going to be exculpatory. I chose this game because I discovered this game. I went into the board gaming firmament and I looked around to my left and to my right, and all I saw was chaff. But then, this is a terrible sequence of metaphors. Shining
a
star in the fixed sphere of the heavens was a game that was designed over the course of a series of podcast episodes by Jeff Engelstein and the other guy whose name I can't remember right now.
Ryan Sturm.
Yeah, Ryan Sturm. And made absolutely no splash whatsoever in the gaming world, and remains to this day, in my opinion, not only the most underrated board game of the modern era, but quite possibly the best, the pinnacle of a six-player game ever published, because most six-player games, you don't want to play a six-player game.
You don't.
They're too long, even games that give you the option. This is a game that you want to play with six players, and it's not too long. It's brilliant. And in keeping with, I think this is very on brand for me to choose a game with the word Tigris in the title, because a few days ago, Ben.
That's right.
We talked about Tigris and Euphrates, and I recently backed a Kickstarter by Shem Phillips for Wayfarers of the South Tigris.
You're a real nonce for the ancient world, right?
I'm total nonce for the ancient world. I remember when I was in university, I think I told you once, I wanted to study ancient Rome, and there's only one professor, and he was 80 years old, and he offered a class on the Roman Empire my freshman year of college at 8:10 in the morning, and I didn't want to take a class at 8:10 in the morning. I was a different person back then, and I thought, I'll just take it next year or whenever they offer it again. They never offered it again, so instead I took classes in ancient Greek history and ancient Near Eastern history. So total hard-on for the ancient Near East. And this game barely has anything to do with the ancient Near East. It has the name Trade on the Tigris in the title. I believe they were originally going to call it Trading in the Mediterranean, because it's a bit of a joke about how many such games there are. I sort of think they should have stuck with that initial premise. It would have been funnier. Forget about theme. Let's say this game is themeless, but as a trading game, as a multiplayer experience, as a social deduction game, as a set, how do you call it? A set making game. It hits every mark. It's so much fun. I mean, is it Jeff Engelstein who said that games should be engines for producing fun? He has built that engine in this game, and everyone listening to this episode needs to go out and buy a copy right now. This game does not deserve to be as unsung as it is.
So it's interesting, right? Because I was listening to Ludology at the time when they were designing this, and I remember listening to one episode where Ryan Sturm was talking about the game and talking about how they just hadn't found a publisher, and that they were just, if they hadn't found one sort of relatively soon, they were just going to put it as a print and play on BGG. And I remember listening to that episode feeling really disappointed, not just for them, but for me, because I wanted to try this game, because I'd followed the development of this game for a long time. And then when it eventually came out with a good publisher, TMG, who are unfortunately no longer with us, I was genuinely excited for it. And then I played it and I thought, wow, they've bloody captured lightning in a bottle here. As you say, this has sort of Seven Wonders levels of multiplayer ability. So Seven Wonders is so great because you can play with 7 people and it doesn't really extend the game length. This is the same with Trade on the Tigris. It doesn't, the more people you put in, the better. It doesn't bog it down. And I played this recently at a board game convention I went to in England. And I think it was the last game I played at the convention. And there's no better way to end a great weekend by playing a game that is so great. And as you say, I usually have an answer for the most underrated game, and that's usually Dogs of War. But this one is genius. This one is brilliant, and this one is so cruelly underrated. And I don't know what the future of it is because
not even underrated, just overlooked.
Completely overlooked. It sort of went nowhere, and this is so surprising. And you're right, it is an engine for generating fun, right?
Yeah, you like to go off about the Americanization of board games like every single episode. Now it's my turn. I think I can ascribe the failure of this game to find a market to exactly that, because it seems so generic and it's so not thematic, and it just like it didn't work in a market that is only looking for bling, for IP, for like loads of minis and plastic and attention grabbing bullshit. Because this is a pure game. These guys designed the fuck out of this game. What did not go into this game is any attempt to market it, to create, make it into like a shiny object. I mean, to its credit, because it just works so beautifully, and it's an homage to board gaming history too, because it has this set collecting element that I think calls back to the Civilization games of the 1980s, and yet it also has this sense of humor in the way the trading mechanism works. I mean, the number one best part of this game. Like, what is the best mechanism in this game? What am I thinking? The thing that captures. I mean, I think every aspect of this game is brilliant, but the most brilliant piece of this game, like, what is it? It's one thing.
Well, so there's this central concept that the cards have 2 things on them. They have a top bit and a bottom bit. And you have to be completely truthful about the top bit, but you can lie your ass off about the bottom bit. And there are certain cards that are just terrible, that just give you an obvious disadvantage, but they have a top bit. So it enables you to tell the truth whilst leading someone into a trap. It's absolute brilliance.
But you're close. That is what sets the stage for the thing that I think is most brilliant about this game. So yes, the core mechanism of this game is that when you're making trades, you have to be honest about the commodity that you're trading. You don't have to be honest about like the idea that goes along with it. Because I think what they were trying to capture with this game is this idea that in like economic relations, ideas travel along with like the goods. And
the Silk Road didn't just carry silk, it also carried philosophy and religion, right?
Yeah, and you don't have as much control over that, right? So you kind of have to like deal with the hand you're given, even if that includes like volcanoes erupting or earthquakes or whatever these disasters are, barbarians, right? But then there's that one card that just says on it, you can lie about this card. The one card that breaks the rule, because like a game that doesn't work, that like the rules are so complex and inconsistent and contradictory, it's just not fun. It's confusing and frustrating. This is a well-oiled machine that purposefully puts in this one wrench that says, here's the moment where you don't have to follow the rules. And it's just brilliant how that plays out, how it works out, and how when you get that card handed to you, you have got to keep a straight face the whole time and get rid of it as quickly as possible. It's like a hot potato. And I just think that tension between like the very carefully crafted engine of game mechanics and then like the one Dutch shoe that you throw in the works to fuck it all up is just it's so satisfying. It's so ingenious. And in a way, as a player, it makes you have to be a better player, right? Because you can't just get that card and go like, oh, fuck you, asshole, right? Like, you have to be on board with that. And because you've got to try and
offload it to someone else, right? Before the time runs out.
Yeah, your interactions like become a seamless part of the game. I mean, I've said this before. These games where like the behavior of the participants become part of the mechanics, I think it's very hard to pull off. This is a game that pulls that off. From the rapid fire trading, then they require you do a 5-minute timer. Thank you very much for that, by the way. Also to like, this like social deduction aspect and this sort of like the need to maintain your temper and to deceive. It's beautiful. It's a work of art.
Thank you for listening to this show and indulging our overweening nostalgia. If you would like to support the show, you can do that by going to patreon.com/5G4D. And we both wish you a very Merry Christmas.